Now moving on, Prince Harry has been awarded more than £140,000 in damages after a phone hacking case. The Duke of Sussex took the action against Mirror Group newspapers and hailed today's ruling as a great day for truth as well as accountability. The judge also ruled that former editor of the Daily Mirror, Piers Morgan, both knew about and took part in phone hacking during his tenure at the paper. The broadcaster has, however, fiercely denied any claims he ever hacked a phone or indeed ordered anyone else to do so.
The judgment finds there is just one article relating to the Prince, published in the Daily Mirror during my entire 9-year tenure as editor, that he thinks may have involved some unlawful information gathering. To be clear, I had then, and still have, zero knowledge of how that particular story was gathered. All his other claims against the Daily Mirror, under my editorship, were rejected. With regard to the judge's other references to me in his judgment, I also want to reiterate, as I've consistently said for many years now, I've never hacked a phone or told anybody else to hack a phone, and nobody has produced any actual evidence to prove that I did.
Well, the gloves are off once again between the Sussexes and Piers Morgan. And I'm joined now by Paul Connew, who's the former editor of the Sunday Mirror. Paul, always a pleasure to speak to you. A bad day for the Mirror Group. They were found against, and the ramifications for the titles are robust. This is bad news.
It's certainly bad news for a newspaper group that isn't doing too well at the moment, and I'm sure they'll be looking very carefully at the implications of the ruling. And I also think it'll be watched closely by lawyers for both the Daily Mail Group and Rupert Murdoch's Group 2, who are also facing actions from Prince Harry scheduled to take place next year. Prince Harry certainly is a lot happier than the Mirror Group today, and I'm sure he may well react to Piers Morgan's reaction, so there's no love lost between those two.
It's interesting, Paul, how during the statement that was read out, Piers Morgan was name-checked. Of course, he denied taking part. He said, I've got zero knowledge of the story in question. Do you think the Sussexes, and in particular Prince Harry, may regret name-checking Piers Morgan? Because Piers Morgan has come out with incendiary comments, including that Harry's real mission is to destroy the royal family, branding his own family callous racists without a shred of proof. It started as a good news day for Prince Harry, and it's ended up a calamity.
I don't really think so. I mean, I'm not a cheerleader for Prince Harry. I have some sympathy with him, but I've also been a pretty robust critic of him. But Piers is, amid the predictably, feisty response from Piers, it was a very carefully worded in one section. He said he had never hacked a phone. I totally believe that. I don't, I think he probably has never personally hacked a phone. But the judge said that it was impossible, in his view, that editors would not know what was happening, which is, of course, and he also made the same charge against both the former legal director and the former CEO. Now, but also a thing that Piers didn't mention, of course, was back in 2015 when the Mirror Group paid out, I think, about £1.3 million to a number of celebrities, including Paul Gascoigne and Sadie Frost, and among others, which they settled at the steps of the court, out of court, without going to trial. They actually, their own QC at the time, got up and acknowledged that hacking had gone on an industrial scale, and that editors, and Piers Morgan was an editor at that time, knew about it. So that's back in 2015. And of course, Lord Leveson at the inquiry there was somewhat sceptical, shall we say, in his comments about Piers Morgan's evidence. Now, I've got no personal, grudge against Piers at all, and we've never worked together. We've worked not in opposition, but he can be a very, very good journalist. But there are questions there which he didn't really address, and in that robust statement. But it was more about a personal attack on Prince Harry and his motivation, rather than addressing specifically the details of the case.
And Paul, briefly, if we could, you mentioned at the top there that the Mirror Group is already in perilous times. It's not a good time for newspapers, period. Do you think this will be a terrible, bad day for their reputation, their share price and indeed their future?
Well, of course, the share price will be interesting. How investors react will be quite interesting. The Mirror Group have just sacked a lot of journalists, sadly, because for financial reasons. But I think it'd be a tragedy if the Mirror Group went to the wall, and I hope it wouldn't. But of course, what's going to happen here, though, Martin, is we're going to have now a revival of political pressure to reopen either criminal investigations or certainly a parliamentary investigation. Now, I'm somebody who doesn't support Prince Harry in any means when he's in any way encouraging politicians to get involved in press regulation. Self-regulation is still the best way, and I think that things have improved. Now, I predate, in fact, the hacking era, but I recently was the co-author of a book called Reporting Royalty, which looked at the Prince Harry case and also the general relationship between the media and the monarchy. And what'll be interesting is whether this widens or maybe partly heals the rift between Prince Harry, his brother, and his father.
OK, we have to leave it there. Paul Connew, former editor of the Sunday Mirror. Don't forget, Leveson did for the News of the World. Let's see what the Harry ruling does for the Mirror Group. You get lots more on Prince Harry on our website. And thanks to you, GBNews.com is the fastest growing national news website in the country. It's got